Boy, rude boy, again with another program. This is we're concentrating on C++, and this is how you properly design and develop your classes in object-oriented programming. We'll be using the Unified Modeling Language method. As you can see here in this diagram, the first box is the name of the class. The second box is where you put your variables, and the dash here means that these variables are all private. And the third box is where we have our functions, and the first set of function is our constructors. Constructors don't return anything, but they can take parameters. So the first is the default constructor, the second is the overloaded constructor. Following that, we have our accessor functions. The accessor functions, all they do, they just get information. They don't modify anything, change anything. Then we have our mutator functions. They modify the variables and change things in the class. The plus sign indicates that these are public. You have the name of the functions, the return type. Then you have in your accessor functions and your mutator functions, you have the name of the function, the argument type they take, and whether they return something or not. In this case, I'll be returning nothing from the mutator functions. Here we have the class. I've already included the class into this workspace. I hope you know how to do that. You can check out the videos which shows you how to create header files. In the header files is where you store all your classes and where you prototype your functions. Okay, when you add a class to your workspace, you get these default names here. This one, I had to include the IOStream and the string header file. I'm using namespace. Oh, sorry, not that one. This one. This is our header file. You get these header. These are name of the header, your class header, and you have to include whatever headers that you might need. In this case, just string and the standard std. Here is the class outline. It reflects exactly what's in the UML, and here's your class, here's your private variables here, and here's your public functions. Here we have the constructor, default constructor, the overloaded constructor. We have a destructor here, even though we're not using the destructor. That's only necessary when you are dynamically assigning memory. And here we have our accessor methods. Those just access the variables. And here we have our mutator method. These change the values. Okay, next, this is the definitions of all our methods. We'll be using the default. Here we have to use the scope resolution operator. You have to use that because you are defining the functions outside of the class, so you have to use this. Alright, so we're defining our constructor here. We're just using the default constructor to initialize the variables. That's typically what you use a constructor for, the default constructor. This overloaded constructor demonstrates the fact that you can use it to pass. We can pass variables into the constructor, and this is constructor is overloaded, meaning it's the same name as the default constructor, but in the argument where it takes arguments, it's laid out to actually take arguments. Right, this is the definition up in the body. We're not using the destructor. And here we have our accessor methods defined. Here's the body of the code. Then we have a mutator method here. And the body of the code, you can see the accessor methods actually have a return type. And the mutator methods in this code, they do not have a return type. And in the main program, the main function, we have, I just prototyped a print function here, and I defined it directly below the main function. Okay, here we are. We created a house1 object, house2 object, and a house3 object. On the house1 object, it's only going to take the default values which was set in the default constructor. House number 2, we're actually passing values into house number 2, so the overloaded constructor would accept these values here. And in house 3, we are creating house 3 object by invoking the set methods, and that will create house 3 for us. This is basically the object that we created. The house is an object, and that object has certain characteristics. It has a color, it has a number of bathrooms, number of bedrooms, and square footage. It's just an easy way to visualize how object-oriented programs work. Okay, and we're just printing out. In the print function, obviously it takes the object that we created, and the print function is going to print out the values in that object. So let's run this. So here we go. The first house was created using the default values, which was set by the default constructor. The second house was created by using the values that was passed to the overloaded constructor, and the third house was created using or invoking the set methods in the class. And that is how you neatly and construct your classes. Once you do it this way, you'll have a nice consistent method, and it'll be easy to read. Your programs will be easy to follow for someone who has to come along and maintain that program. Okay, here it is again, the unified modeling language layout of your class. Alright, thank you very much, and have fun, good times programming.